What to do when you know that you're right. We have all been in the circumstance where we're having a conversation or an argument with someone and they are convinced that you are wrong, even though you know you're right, whether it's trivial facts or serious stuff. How you react to the accusation or to the disagreement can turn the course of the whole conversation. So today we're going to talk about how to do it right. When you know that you're right, how do you respond in a way that won't ruin the relationship, that will build it instead of destroy it? That's what we've got for you. But before we get to that, I'd like you to check and see if you're a subscriber here. And if not, please click that subscribe button and the little bell so you learn when we drop videos like this to help you live a more productive and more successful life. I'll be right back.
GILD Coaching. More success, less stress.
Whether it's at work or in your personal life, if you know that you're right about something and that someone else is wrong and you want to communicate that, there are correct ways and incorrect ways to do that. The incorrect way would be starting up a needless argument, pushing your point so far that it helps to break down the relationship fibers. So today we're going to go over how to communicate when you just know in your heart of hearts, or because of facts, that you're right. So just because you know you're right doesn't mean that getting into an actual argument is worth it. Sometimes it's best to just let things go. At the very least, before you set out to prove that you're right, it's good to check your own argument. So consider these few points before you even react. Number one, are you emotionally overwhelmed? When you are opposed by somebody, there is an emotional response, and that's perfectly normal, but it's best to make sure that you can keep yourself calm. If you can't keep yourself calm, it's best to not respond at all in that moment. It's really worth looking at your emotions on a scale of maybe 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, 1 being very, very low emotion, 10 being very, very high. If you're above a 5, you might want to take a breath because your response could be too aggressive. So make sure that you're not experiencing emotional overwhelm when you decide to respond. Number two, it's not always necessary to change somebody's mind. Variety is the spice of life, right? I have some very defined political opinions. Other people have very defined political opinions that are different from mine. And we can have an exchange about things, but sometimes that exchange includes people who want to prove that they are right. And it's not always about changing somebody's mind. Unless it's an issue that's really, really serious, it's just best to agree to disagree and then move on. Okay, number 3, some issues are objective and some are subjective. Objective issues would be something that you can back up with facts, like the height of the tallest mountain in the world or the lowest depth of the ocean that's been discovered at this point. Okay, so that would be an objective argument that you can back up with facts. You can do a quick search. You can look on Wikipedia or wherever the information is, and you can figure out what do the facts say. Subjective arguments have their basis in opinions, and we have to remember that opinions are based on a set of assumptions that are unique to each person. So your opinions are based on a set of assumptions that are unique to you, mine, me. My rightness and your rightness, no matter how certain we are of it, might really be nothing more than our reflection of our values rather than a reflection of observable facts. So if it is a subjective argument, you might just want to back up, because that's really where opinions come in, and we all do have the right to have different opinions. I was having a discussion recently with a mother of another child involved in a sporting event that my daughter was involved in, and we both experienced the same situation from 2 different perspectives. My daughter wasn't involved in it, it was somebody else. This other mother was saying to me, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. And I said, would you like to know what my observation is? Well, what did you see? And I said, well, I kind of saw this and this, just from my perspective. My kid's not in it. I'm not emotionally involved in it. That was my opinion from my perspective that formed my perception. She had a completely different perception, different perspective. She was also probably really close to a 10 or maybe an 11 on the scale of 10 when it came to emotions. So it wasn't the time for her to be going in and trying to discern what was what. Okay, so just make sure that you know the difference between objective, subjective, and then again, back to that, one of those points that we already covered, the emotional impact. Okay, moving on, our next point is your relationship should dictate how you respond. If you're talking to a close friend, a family member, and they say that you're wrong about something and you know that you're right, no, you can better temper your response because you've known this person for a really long time. When it's a stranger, or when it's a boss or a coworker, it's important to weigh two things. Number one, how well do you know this person? And number two, what is the usefulness of your response? Is there actually a point to gain you something? Or is it just arguing? Especially when you're in the workplace, sometimes it's just best to let the water roll off the duck's back, for lack of a better term. Just let it roll off and move on, because it doesn't really matter. That's not the nature of your relationship. Now, if you work for someone who's not a kind person, kind of vindictive or unkind, it's likely just best to accept their wrongness and move on if you want to keep your job, or if you want to keep your peace within your job, even if you're looking for another job, unless their wrongness is a danger to you or your company. If it's a regulation type of a thing against the law, what the boss is doing, in which case you need somebody else to come in and help you. But with regular daily issues is what we're talking about. Maybe just like let him be wrong and know that you're right and move on, because as a former employer of mine used to say, hey, we're not saving anybody's life and we're not killing anybody, so let's just move on. That sort of an attitude. All right, and our final point is make sure that you're actually really correct. It seems obvious to you that you're right, but that doesn't mean that you're not making assumptions based on things that may not be facts. So the assumptions that lie at the root of our views are going to be at the weakest points. So make sure you know why you've made those assumptions, because what if you've made an incorrect assumption? Then you're convinced that you're right from that standpoint, and you may be right from that standpoint were your assumption not incorrect. So whatever you think you're right about, prove it to yourself without making assumptions. So once you've decided it's actually worth reacting when somebody says that you're wrong, it's time to formulate a response that'll actually get your point across, right? So make sure that you're paying attention to your nonverbal cues. I talk with my hands a lot. I have a very expressive face, all of those things. I'd probably be very bad at playing poker. So make sure that you've got your body language in check, your tone of voice, and other nonverbal cues, such as the way that you're standing, crossed arms. You can't really see me, but crossing your arms in front of your chest is a very blocked off way to stand. You can be disrespectful with your posture, right? So the odds that the other person will be receptive to your response increase when you have more positive body language. You have good eye contact, you are standing up straight, you are not too emotionally invested, so you can have your voice under control. You're not showing all of your feelings and your facial expressions. So if you have all of that under control, then you will have a lower chance that you'll be baited into some sort of a heated debate. All right, that is how to respond when you know that you're right and the other person is wrong. If this has been of help to you, give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't already, check and make sure you're a subscriber here, because we'd love to have you. We are dropping videos like this all the time to help you live a happier and more successful life. I'll see you next time.